She was one of my first business coaches, and in 2024, she had me on her podcast. So when I say Rose Chastain knows how to hold space for conversation, I mean that from experience. She spent over 20 years in consulting, trained over 14,000 people in speaking and leadership, built multiple companies, and created A Woman's Voice, a podcast dedicated to amplifying women's stories. Today, the mic is flipped, and what I really wanted to dig into with her is this. When you've spent that long helping others show up and be heard, what does your own brand journey actually look like behind the scenes? There's a version of your brand that doesn't need to be pushed. It pulls. I'm Judith K. Ritz, founder of the Spirit Brand Academy, and this is the Magnetic Brand Podcast. Every week, we go deep on what actually makes a brand magnetic through human design, astrology, and archetypes. In solo episodes and real conversations with women who've built something that feels like them. Let's get into it.
Ooh, what a
So
good
good.
question. Oh my God. Right off the bat, on the spot. Oh my goodness. My brand is about empowering and uplifting women. And I strongly believe that if more women are in control and in power of commerce, of thriving businesses, of politics, then the world really will be a better place. We tend to bring people with us. We tend to uplift people. We think collaboratively. Of course, I'm generalizing and I'm not intending to exclude anyone, but it does seem to be that, for example, there was a study of that companies that have women CEOs tend to have consistent, steady growth. And something to, we are building this empire, we're building this community, and we're designed and organized physically, hormonally around this sort of process. And so because that's so much of my brand and so much of my reputation. I mean, I have a podcast called A Woman's Voice. It's kind of what I do. It's really behind the scene, a constant truing up of myself. It feels more than daily, even. It feels hourly sometimes. Like, did I just do that to please them, to achieve something? Did I just sacrifice myself in order to have a connection that I think I need? How am I supposed to represent empowering women in the world if I am like not honoring myself? And it goes from like silly things like, saying to myself, I don't need to have breakfast. I need to, push through and just make this happen, or I can have one more client. I don't need to exercise. I can have one more client. It's this process of daily and sometimes hourly being true to myself. And I would say that more than anything else is the work that I do in the background.
Mm-hmm. So to really make always sure that you find the right balance, right? Between staying true to yourself, but at the same time growing your brand, growing your business, being there for your clients.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually my first question was already like, what did your own brand actually look like? You've trained so many, not only women, also men, because when we met back in 2018, in the ecosystem of JT Fox, we were quite a big group, mixed men and women. And, and what was it like to have your own brand? And did you ever feel like your brand, and also now, like your brand is really your brand? Or because you were part of something, part of a group of coaches, part of a different company. Yeah, so like how did this feel?
It depends on how you define brand. A lot of people, they talk about brand, and really what they mean is their logo or their website. And I feel like your brand is actually what people say about you when you're not there. It's the impression that you leave. And so for me, when I started my own business, the thing that I discovered is that my brand, the easiest, best, most effective brand for me would always be something that's naturally me. So it wasn't what I set out to do, but I'm very much a Californian. It's like in my DNA. I've lived here most of my life. I've lived in other countries periodically, but always came back to California. So no matter what I try, no matter what I do, no matter how fashionable my decisions might be, it's always I come back to being a Californian. And so I have a California accent. I talk like an American often. There's all these things. So it seems like the best brand for me. I never had a problem of being part of a group and having my brand disappear because I'm so uniquely me. I can't really pull off being someone else. And that type of it really is like telling the truth, no fancy airs, uh focused around personal development, encouraging. All of that is naturally who I am in the world that I come from and where my experience comes from. So it's not really something I've ever managed because it's just true.
It's amazing actually, because a lot of entrepreneurs, business women, they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to say, yeah, just be authentic, but it's like, but yeah, how am I authentic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I
Exactly.
actually? you know and I'm so glad you shared your human design chart with me so I could take a peek before we started, and I can actually see that you're born leader. You have a channel for self-expression, and that's also what you teach, and that's also what you did with me, when we had the one-on-one day. So
Yeah.
you helped me to, okay, what do you want to express, how to express it, and that's one of your talents rooted inside of you, and then you have a channel for really nurturing and growing a business,
Okay.
and doing it your way. And it's amazing, I can really see this now, that I look at your chart and that I know your story and what you do. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, you're really living in alignment with your human design chart, with what you're born to do, to be here.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, that's really amazing.
I have to tell you one quick story about this is with my consulting business, when I started traveling, which was 2016, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there. No one knew my first name. My birth name is actually Harvest. Harvest Rose Rael is my full name.
Uh-huh.
And no one knew that. Not my closest friends. I mean, at the time, my husband knew it, and that was it. And it was like this top secret. But then I'm traveling internationally, so of course I have to use my passport, and that's my given name. And so it was sort of like I started traveling around the world and working with people internationally, and along with that, at the same time, my full name came out, that people knew Harvest Rose is and then now on my website where I sell my art, it's called Harvest Rose Creations. And
Uh-huh.
so this full um blossoming, like I see no reason why you can't make money and express art. Uh, I see no reason why you can't be both both out to empower men and women. I see no reason why you can't have a family and business. Like none of those things I think are true limitations.
Mhm. Yeah. No, and it's true. And I would like to see, you need to send me the website, and I will also link it in the show notes. So if anybody's interested in seeing your art, and of course I
Yeah,
am, so I will just put it down there.
thank you.
And like when we go back to the time when you were in the ecosystem where we met of JD Fox and with all the other coaches,
Mhm.
like how much was like genuinely yours and how much was it shaped by the container you were in?
It's hard to quantify that. It is there were agreements that I had. Several different organizations over the length of my career have hired me to speak on their behalf or do a training on their behalf. And there's always agreements in that container, as you said, in terms of how they want to be represented and what's okay and what's not okay and topics that'll work for them and they won't. So in that particular container, there were specific agreements about what I would do every time we spoke or every time there was a presentation. Like they had structures like to ask people for ratings, which I always thought was funny, but there were like structures like that that were part of the organization. So So the infrastructure was designed by them. It was their business. I was doing something for their company, you know, it wasn't my company. But the content and everything that I taught or what I believe in or where how I work from is all that was all mine.
And how did it feel like when you really think like, okay, there, because you have also the channel to stand up for your own beliefs, for your own integrity. You fight for what you feel right, and you
Mm.
want to do it your way. So how has that been? You know, like like working in a container. Did you ever feel like, no, I want to completely break out and I really need to do just what is my own? Or was it kind of easy to mix in and be part of it, and then having your little area where you could fully express yourself? Or was it at some point like, no, I need to completely do my own thing?
I think it's been both. The benefit of being inside of someone else's container is there is a lot of logistics involved in running a business that are mostly a pain in the ass, marketing, taxes, etc. And the benefit of being able to show up in someone else's audience and express a big part of what I love doing, which is I love teaching people and I love especially speaking and talking about speaking and sharing the tools that I have and that I know that have people be more true to themselves. I love that. And it is such a gift to be able to show up inside of someone else's audience and to do that. So that's one piece. I have found that there are certain aspects that I want to express that I can't express in that container or in another container. For
Mhm.
example, a woman's voice is completely my own. And what I love about that my podcast and that whole conversation is that I have no censoring. I have no limits for what people can talk about because I what I really wanted to do was to create this safe place where anyone could say anything. Now, that's not the best idea for a business model. In doing my own thing and expressing myself in this podcast, then I can say, okay, I just want women and people expressed. That's what I want. That's my goal, you know? And I get to make that choice of, okay, I'm going to do something that might eliminate potential revenue and that's fine with me. That's, you know, that's really the difference. But in terms of consulting, you know, there's an event that I do called Paint Your Future.
Mhm.
And again, completely created from this work that my partner and I do, which is called Flow from Your Heart, which really is a structure to there's certain aspects of it, but it's the different components that make up a human being, and it can be translated through anything. You know, like human design is of such an important tool to be able to do that. But for example, one of the components that we talk about is we call it the foundation wheel, which is your mind, your physical, and your heart, and just taking the time to notice, are they in balance?
Mhm.
And how do you discover if they're in balance? And then we have another tool that has both the five senses and stop, trust, and surrender. And that for me is like sort of what's the driver, and can you pause enough in your running from one thing to another to hear what's true for yourself, to notice, oh, my stomach is grumbling, oh, my ears hear this, oh, my, you know, this is what's happening in my body, oh, my heart is racing, oh, I feel so much love, oh, you know, like that stillness and that grounding. So that type of work in another container I don't get to do. For example, when we do a paint your future and I facilitate, it's so much fun. It's like a paint and sip night, but it has to do with people really creating a picture, a vision of what they see their future being. And that is deeply fulfilling. I get to mix painting, meditation, wine, and community. I mean, how good can it be? And it's so cool. People end up leaving those workshops surprised by what they were able to create and who they are. And so that type of work, like mixing meditation, painting, and networking together seems wrong, but it's very much me.
It is. I can see this. You know, no,
Yeah.
you have this nurturing part also.
Mm.
And so this is very nurturing for yourself, but it's also very nurturing for your clients. And how often do you do this workshop?
We just did one last week, so I'm scheduling them often. Like about once a month, we're doing them right now, but it'll continue more. I live in an area that's very much filled with wineries.
Hmm.
It's like a valley right next to Napa Valley in California is where I live, and so um, there's all these wineries that are like, "Come do paint and sip tonight." So we'll see.
That's cool. So talking about the company, so it's CSW Consulting, right? With your partner. So that means this is really your own thing now, your own company, your own business, your own container. And how does this work to, when you have two people that grow it, how does this work with building this as a brand to the
Uh-huh.
outside? No, like me, it's only me, and I'm the face of my brand. So I have my personal brand with all my, okay, what does my human design, my astrology, my archetype say about me? Okay, and I put this out there. But how does it
Yeah.
work for you guys? Because it's two of you, and how does it work with the energies behind that?
Um, I think it's a lot simpler than one might expect. So, CSW Consultancy is simply the name. It's our email, it's the name, it's the brand. It's like our invoices have that. It's like just the look and the consistency. But just like people relate to you like you're the face of the brand and they see you, they relate to William and I as the face of CSW. So our clients very much are connected to both of us. And what's really cool is that what we're able to deliver is, in this case, both the masculine perspective and the feminine perspective, and that sort of balance is what people have come to depend on us for. So there's people like we have clients who are dealing with grief and frustrations and all of these deep human emotions that humans are capable of, and my partner William is able to sit with people in their grief and their anger, so that it's no longer judged, so that they can accept the way that they are, so that they can see it and let go of it, so that they can feel it, so that they can honor themselves. So he can do that and hold that in there. And then I can do this other piece where I can come in and I can go, I see you, I love you, I nurture you, you're beautiful. And people will, in response to me, open up. And then he's able to get in at another level. And we have found that this happens with people even when it's just him working with them or just me working with them. So, for example, there's a man he works with. The client says, well, I know Rose would approve of this growth. Like in their conversation, he'll talk about how I'll be proud of him. And then I have this client and we're working on building her short-term rental property and what that's going to look like. And she'll say, I bet William would really like the strategy. Like there's sort of a people are able to maybe see and address the duality of their own natures. Mhm.
And this is super interesting. So that makes me wonder, like, how do you do it in terms of attracting clients? Because, you have your qualities and your areas,
Yes.
and William has its own, and he would attract different clients than you. So how do you do this in the marketing?
Well, for the most part, we've never marketed. So that's like an unpopular answer, but
Amazing. Give me
um
this business.
um it's and that might be because if we were to do a marketing campaign, like an online marketing campaign, um I would be the face of it. And
Mhm.
and then I would just do that. And then he would be one of the top consultants and my partner. That's it. Because that's his, like, if you look at the way we actually are, like if we were to go to a networking event, let's say, or to an opportunity event like this, I would be the one that would be, hi, I'm Rose. Do you want to talk to me? I like you. You like me? That would be you. And I would just do that. And then he would be like leaning against the wall, like observing people, and people would come talk to him. Or I would say, oh my God, you have to meet him, and bring them over to him. And
Ah,
then, well, we have these different jobs, we'll say, and it's very natural for us. So we just stay in those slots. So I meet people, people like me, I like people, and then he's the closer. So he has this amazing, we call him the closer, but he has an amazing skill set of being able to easily connect dots. So he'll say to someone talking to you, he'll be like, "Oh, Judith, Spirit Brand Academy, that's really beautiful. You should do a retreat with this person. I just met this person." And then he'll like introduce the perfect connection. Or he'll say, you know, "Oh, you're longing to express yourself in your brand. Well, here's some tools that you need." Like, he'll just see the right thing for people.
That
And so
sounds
then
so much like Projector. I don't know if you know his human design type, but that sounds absolutely like Projector.
it might be, I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. I think I
Yeah.
did one for him too, but it's so we have our different skill sets, and it's sort of
Mhm,
like, or if you're talking like a restaurant, I'll be the front of the house, he'll be the back of the house, like
mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's amazing, because can't be
Mm,
both in the entrance or both in the back. So that's
yeah,
really amazing how you guys
yeah,
collaborate on there and have
yeah.
the different roles.
Yeah. It's funny though, in consulting, we've been able to do that really well. And we have a company, we have a CBD skincare company, and we did not do that as well in that company, which is very interesting.
You still run this company or it's like the past already?
No, we still own it. We still run the company. Awesome products, awesome products. But I think now in this conversation, I'm now thinking that the interesting thing is that consulting was my business, and I brought him into it.
Mhm.
And the CBD skincare company was his idea, and I worked in it, you know? So I think that there's something about that and how it's worked so well in one and not in the other. Like, I feel like I know my role better in consulting because it's my thing that I've been doing,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. I'm just now realizing this.
Uh-huh. I'm happy you brought this up because this was another question that I had, like it's just so different areas. And how did or do you manage, to hold up these multiple identities in these completely different business areas?
I think the best answer to that question is that it's about the future I'm building. And inside of the future that I'm building, there's multiple ways to achieve that. And so then it comes down to simply what's in my calendar. And they both, all the different, let's say, personalities or all the different roles that I play, they're all consistent with the same future. So they're all about building residual income and creating communities and empowering people to be their best selves. And that's what I'm working on. So I don't really have to shift identities. It really has more to do with um today, am I working in this location or in this location? Am I on Zoom or am I in person? Where am I flying somewhere or am I working from home? It's more logistic than it is making sure so
Yeah.
yeah.
So both is authentic because both is part of your life of what
Mhm.
you do, what you practice. So you can kind of easily run both parallel and just
Yeah.
switch like, okay, today this, tomorrow this.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I find the CBD skincare company, it is more transactional, whereas the consulting clients I actually have a relationship with. Um, but that's not incongruent to be transactional. Some parts of life are transactional.
And it's similar to me. I'm a manifesting generator. Yeah, multitasking, multi-passionate. So of course I also have multiple things in my business.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's quite similar. I always need to like, okay, now I put this hat on. Okay, put this hat aside. Now it's this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And just as a tip for everybody who's listening, who is a manifesting generator, because I get this question a lot like, yeah, okay, but when I have three different areas in my business, what do I focus on? Or how do I know what to focus on?
Yeah.
And then it's really about, well, what are you most excited about right now? And then you go with this, and the other two areas they fall behind
Yeah.
a little bit. But then at some point, could be a couple of days later, a couple of weeks, a couple of months later, you're like,
Mhm.
okay, now this got a little bit boring because I had a lot of this now, so I'll switch to that now. And that's how you switch focus.
Yeah.
And talking about your podcast again. So, and by the way, I find it so funny, when you had me in your podcast, I was sitting outside in the pool lounge, and now I have you in my podcast, and now I'm sitting inside the house. Whereas in all the episodes before, I was sitting also outside, but today was just so raining, and when it's raining, it's so loud here. I don't know how it is in California. When it
It's loud.
rains, it's loud as well, right? And you can't sit, like, sometimes I sit outside when I'm in a client call and it starts raining and I'm like, wait, hold on. I need to go inside. I need to put headphones because I can't hear nothing you're saying.
Exactly. My dream for a Woman's Voice podcast is that it be this platform where we can hear the voices and the passions of women all over the world. And I was one time I was dealing with my brother-in-law's passing, and he had like 18 months of I was going to say hospice. That's not quite right, but of caring for him for 18 months. Um and it was hard. It was really hard. And a lot of our businesses just kind of got put to the side while we were dealing with this. And there was a lot of feelings and things to process, and feeling powerless and unable to make a difference in what really matters. And in the process of that, both William and I, in different ways, did some deep soul searching and came up with our own expressions of how to confront this. And for me, I started painting like mad, and really, because I found that I could process things in art that I couldn't verbally say. Um, so I might be painting and then just sobbing, and then paint some more and then sobbing, and then I can see when I look at my paintings. Oh, I was really angry there. Oh, really? I felt a lot of love there. So I can see a lot. So that was one thing, was the painting. And then the other thing, and this really got clear for me, I was meditating and I was sitting underneath this tree, and I had done my yoga and exercise, and I was sitting under this tree, and I was like, what's next? What is true for me? And I like heard this voice, had this knowing inside of me, however call it, but it was like, do the podcast, write the book, and continue painting. And
Mhm.
okay. Sort of like, I don't know where that came from, but so clear. And hardly ever in life is anything that clear. So I was like, I should probably listen to this. And so I wrote the outline of this book that I've been thinking about, which is about the differences between men and women hormonally. Like, there's all these things in between men and women where we push and pull. And often men will say, women just don't know what they want. And they don't realize that that's not true. It's just that what we want and need, it changes. What we want and need changes. And for the most part, men, when they are through with puberty, then they're pretty much the same, what they need. And we're not like that. So I was like, okay, I got to write that book. So I've written that book, the outline for that book, and I was like, okay, now the next step is publish it. And I'm not there yet, but it'll be like that'll be one project. But then the other part was this podcast. And so it's been about 2.5 years of publishing, and I'm now redesigning the podcast, looking at for what's next. And I think it's just going to be about men and women and having their voice be heard, just having your voice be heard. And that'll be the next evolution of this. But it has been to this point. One of my favorite things was, in this one week, I interviewed these two sisters who are Mormon sisters who are on their mission. And it was a big deal that women were allowed to go on a mission. Like, it was a real source of pride and accomplishment for these women. So these two young women, their 20s, just creating this new life for themselves and trying to make a difference, because that really was the point of the mission for them. And then the same week, I interviewed this woman who has been a sex worker since she was 19, and is an advocate working on getting laws to protect the people who are sex workers, and how to do that, and how empowering it is for her, and just her perspective. So it was like, in one week, I had both of these different voices, and it was like, this is so important that we have all of our different truths be expressed, not just the ones that agree with me or the ones that disagree with me, not just yes or no, but all of it. And what kind of world would that be? And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I'm going to continue to create this platform where the things that are like outrageous are actually said,
Mm.
like I want to talk about healthcare, and I want to talk about education system, and I want to talk about, pharmaceuticals, and I want to talk about what's in our plants. And like, I want to talk about all the things, that we need to talk about. And I don't know, maybe that's like, I'll be burned at the stake for being such a rebel, but I feel like
That's a hero.
exactly. So Well, that's where the podcast is. And coming up next, there's this amazing woman I'm about to interview who has been a nurse and a manager in the healthcare industry in the Bay Area, and has been really influential in a lot of legislation and different things that will really help people. But she wants to talk about the truth about healthcare and where it's missing the care part of this, and has become more of a business, and the impact of that. So
Hmm.
yeah.
So interesting.
Well,
And when it comes to your own voice, like what impact did the podcast have compared to the consulting? Like what impact on your own voice? Like has it changed? Has it evolved? Did it stay similar?
not really, because again, it's different categories. The podcast is about hearing other people express themselves, and I feel like I'm the container for that. Yeah. And when I'm consulting, I'm either educating people, or it's similar in terms of that they need an outflow where they're actually heard, and then given some constructive feedback around it. So it's more structural.
And has it influenced? I'm just wondering, like, has all the things that you've heard in your podcast, have they influenced now maybe how you also do your consulting? Because you got a lot of different perspectives that now maybe influence how you see some things.
Yes, I would say so. I would say every time I have a conversation, there's some piece of their wisdom that I pick up. Yeah, I was just thinking about some of the women I've interviewed, and I had one woman who channeled the entire conversation. She'd be like, the spirits tell me, and it would be throughout the whole conversation. And then there was another woman who was from South Africa, and she lived in South Africa through the ending of apartheid and what that was like. And that changed me. When I interviewed her, it was like I got at a deep level the level of privilege that I've experienced in my life that I didn't appreciate, or really honor. And it was like I felt empowered, like I could do more good than what I knew I could before, because it was like, oh no, I've never had to, for example, register as a white person, which is something she had to deal with, was registering as a black person. Like, I've never had to deal with that kind of constraint,
Hmm.
right? So I think every woman I've talked to has shaped me in some way. Even like I'm not religious, but when I interviewed the Mormon sisters, they had such peace in their conviction, and that they were like, no, I'm not going to fight against God's path. I'm going to trust that God will put me on the right path. And if what I'm meant to do is to be a wife, then that's what I'll do, is I'll be a wife. And if not, then not. Like, there was such peace in their conviction. It was
Hmm.
really inspiring. And that's been something previously I've really pushed against and rebelled against. Um so yes, I think I've been changed and impacted by every woman I've talked to.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. You know what you said about also that you appreciate now more, like how you grew up. And I every now and then have a similar experience. And just recently we had this, I think last week we had here a friend of mine and I, we created a business women network here in Costa Rica, like in our area where we live, to really support each other and to grow with each other, learn from each other, with each other. And last week when we had the meeting, we talked about money mindset. And in this whole conversation, things came up like how they grew up and how they were limited maybe from their parents, their family, and or other struggles that they experienced. And I was like, man, I'm so blessed. Like my parents, they never held me back. They always let me do what I want to do. They like, for example, when it came to my sports, My father was always the super supportive one, but they never also pushed me. You have a lot of parents that push their kids to become the
Yeah.
football star or whatever.
Yeah.
They never pushed me, but they were always supportive. My father was the one who always accompanied me to the competitions, when I was a teenager. Before
Yeah.
I went really internationally, then of course he didn't come with me anymore to Barcelona or to
Yeah.
Glasgow or to Moscow or whatever. But everything that was close in the area of my parents, he always accompanied me, took pictures. So even people came to me like, "Oh, you have your private photographer?" I was like, "Yeah." And or my mother, she didn't accompany me actively. She was not actively supporting me, but she also
Yeah.
never held me back. She always let me do my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes such a big difference in how you grow up in your mindset and everything. So yeah, and like hearing this from other business women, there's always like, oh wow, I was really blessed to grow up like this, to always being
Yeah.
able to do my thing. And yeah, and it's great now that other women, like my clients, like when they come to my readings, and I look at them and then finally they get the permission slip from me, like, look, this is how
Yeah.
you are. This is how you're born to be. And these are your strengths and your talents. And this is what you need to express. And they're like, oh, wow, thank you. I felt this, but I wasn't sure
Yes.
if this is really me, if I'm really allowed to show up like this or to talk like this or to speak
Yeah.
about this. So, yeah, it's really amazing to see this. So, you have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs already. You've coached,
Mhm.
consulted. Did you recognize a pattern that like established women or also men in business consistently get wrong when it comes to how to show up?
What do you mean how to show up?
Like how
They
to
get
like when
wrong.
they have their business, like how to show up, like maybe in my case now, like how to show up in my brand, in my marketing, when I speak to people, when I go out there and do stuff on
Oh,
Instagram or with the podcast, for example, now, or in life events like this.
I would say the biggest mistake that is consistently made isn't so much a mistake in how to show up, but the expectations that of what showing up will do. So
Hmm.
many, many, many people have a view that, if they post enough Instagram stories or they have enough YouTube videos that it'll all just turn out. And it's not sustainable. It doesn't work that way. It does. Yes, you can have a really great marketing campaign and yes, that can work and it can produce things. But it's not the pill that solves all of the things. you know, that you have to show up consistently in the right place. And really, a lot of it has to do with, are you growing strategically? Are you offering relevant products to the relevant people? You
Hmm.
know, whether your products are yourself or products, it's people are assigning outside influences more power than their own research instincts, true self.
That means like as a recommendation to really like go inside and feel like, okay, what is it that I really want to express or that I really want to offer and help people
Yeah.
with? To find the right niche, let's say like this, with
Yeah.
something that you offer instead of just putting out noise.
Exactly, exactly. So, for example, paint your future. I want to do these events. I love doing these events. I find them so fulfilling for people, and I want to do them all the time, everywhere. Like I would do them for free, but I really want them as a business, and it's a business funnel for me. Like people do these events. It's only $50. You pay, you get an art, you get wine. You have a lovely time, and then also you get to know me and the work that I do, and there you have that introduction now.
Mhm.
So it's a business funnel, and so I can market that, and I market me, and I market this, but I just wanna do those events, and I just get to be myself. I don't have to figure out the perfect algorithm. I get to be myself, and shockingly, it's like the people who are attracted to that, they want that, right? And then here's the other piece is that I don't market that in the general newspaper, for example. I'll market it in places where people will go for girlfriend time, for wine and paint, for creative time, I'm recognizing the truth. I'm not trying to get 8 billion people to like my products. I'm like, these are the kinds of people who like this, and I want to do it. So let's keep talking about it. That's it.
Yeah, because when I looked at you don't have like a huge Instagram account. No, it's really so I was like, okay, Rose must be doing it in a different kind of way, you know? And it's amazing, really. I like creative ways of marketing the business.
Yes. I feel like the work that I do doesn't necessarily fit in one marketing campaign. So there's offerings that I have, and those specific offerings can be very empowering. So I have a women's business boot camp that is like 10 sessions, and we go over the basics of launching a business. So that I make available online to the general public, and that's just a, a thing that we do sometimes, but it's not the work that I do, if that makes sense.
Because it doesn't go as deep as when you do the
Yeah.
consult.
Yeah.
Ah.
So the work that I do is like I want to work with someone for years,
Mhm.
and it's deep and it's intimate and it's like really changing who they are in the world and who they are for themselves. And that's the kind of work that I want to do.
Mhm. Yeah, it's amazing. This was so interesting and inspiring. Do you have like one last thing that
Sure.
you really feel like this is on my heart and I really want to share this?
I feel like if we all can be still enough with yourself at any point, and that can look lots of different ways. I don't think it has to be meditation or any particular one thing. It could be while you're running, it could be anything. But if you're still enough with yourself, you'll know what feels right and what's the right direction. And if you can honor that, then you're going to end up with this amazing life that you love. And I think that that's really important that we all practice that.
It's interesting. I just want to add to this, because I had a human
Yeah.
design reading this morning. It was a personal reading for a change. Most of the time I do the business reading and the marketing
Yeah.
readings. This was a
Yeah.
personal one. And it turned out that for him, it was specifically super necessary that he sits on his own, also that he works on his own and not like in a big office, or a big co-working space where there's a lot of noise and conditioning and influence, because that will just be like way too much and draining. But the longer he sits with himself, and he realized it because he was on a 3 month holiday. And he said, like, the longer the holiday lasted and the quieter it got, and the more I really sit with myself, and I woke up in the morning and I'm like, what do I actually want to do today?
Yeah.
And that was an interesting experience for him. And this really led to like really questioning the way
Yeah.
he's working now, and how the future could be in his company, or what his future would look like.
And I think that that's like the high level view, like what the company could look like, but also like small things, like when we are done with this recording this podcast, am I going to sit and breathe and use the washroom, and then or am I just going to rush to the next thing? And the quality of what kind of person I get to be in the world is greatly impacted by which one I do.
Thank you so much, Rose. This was super
You're welcome.
interesting. I can't wait to look at your art. I wonder if I would see like, oh, Rose was really angry here, or here she was like
I bet
super,
you'll be able
I don't know, like in the sky, in the clouds, she was here.
to.
So yeah, amazing. I can't wait to see this, and I will link this. And also, if you wanna, if you have anything else to share with me that I can share with my audience, where they could go to kind of, dive into their own process, where you could be a big help and facilitator.
Yeah.
So just also share this with me later. And then to all my listeners out there, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with everyone you think they need to hear it, and give it a 5-star rating. That would really support the podcast.